Every car channel talks about horsepower. Nobody talks about the number that actually matters once you hit your 60s. Seat height. Not ground clearance, not curb weight. The distance between the pavement and where your body lands when you sit down, and the angle your knees have to bend to get there. Orthopedic surgeons will tell you the sweet spot is 25 to 28 inches off the ground. Below that, you're dropping into a seat like it's a low couch, and getting back up puts real strain on your hips and knees. Above that, you're climbing, stepping up, grabbing something to pull yourself in, and hoping your balance holds. Neither one is good, but almost nobody in the automotive press is measuring for it. Reviewers talk about infotainment screens and 0 to 60 times. They don't talk about door swing angle, they don't talk about where the grab handle sits, and they definitely don't talk about the floor to seat drop that determines whether getting in and out of your own car becomes a daily aggravation. So we did the measuring. 7 luxury and near luxury SUVs ranked on the 3 things that actually decide whether a vehicle works for a driver over 60. Seat height in that 25 to 28 inch window, a door that opens wide enough to get a real angle of approach, and the grab handle or A-pillar you can actually use without contorting. Let's start with the one that gets this closest to perfect, the Genesis GV70. Genesis doesn't market this car to seniors. It markets it as a BMW X3 fighter, all sports styling and turbocharged numbers. But sit in one and the first thing you notice is how the door opens, close to 90 degrees, wider than almost anything in its class, which means you're not twisting your body around a half-open door frame to get in. The seat height lands right around 26 inches, which is the entry-exit sweet spot almost exactly. And the A-pillar has a shape to it, a real handhold, not just a flat piece of trim you're grabbing with your fingertips. Genesis also throws in a memory seat function that saves your exact position, so if 2 drivers share the car, you're not readjusting the seat height every single time, which, if you've ever had to do it with achy hands, is a bigger deal than it sounds. Genesis also nailed something most brands overlook entirely: the seat bolstering. On a lot of SUVs, the side bolster that's supposed to hug you in corners becomes an obstacle when you're trying to swing your legs out. It catches on your hip or your thigh on the way through. The GV70's bolster is softer and lower on the outboard side specifically, so it doesn't fight you on the way out. That's not a coincidence. That's an engineer somewhere who actually thought about the motion of getting out of the car, not just the motion of driving it. Next is a car that's been quietly doing this better than anyone for over a decade, the Lexus RX. Lexus has always over-engineered comfort, and the RX shows it in details nobody advertises. The seat sits at about 27 inches. Door opening is generous, and critically, the seat bottom is angled to help you rock forward and stand, rather than needing to push straight up with your arms. That's a small thing that makes an enormous difference if you've got knee issues or hip issues. The over-the-door grab handle is padded and positioned exactly where your hand naturally falls when you reach up. And Lexus dealers, for what it's worth, get more requests for RX test drives from buyers over 65 than almost any other model in the lineup. Dealers just don't put that in the brochure. There's also the matter of the door itself. Lexus tunes the hinge resistance on the RX so the door holds its position at almost any angle, instead of swinging shut on you or drifting open too far on a slope. That sounds minor until you're parked on a sloped driveway trying to get out one-handed while holding a grocery bag or a cane in the other. A door that stays where you put it is a door you don't have to fight, and that's exactly the kind of detail that never makes it into a horsepower and torque review. Then there's a car most people don't even think of as a luxury SUV, the Lincoln Corsair. Lincoln has spent the last few years rebuilding its identity around quiet luxury, and the Corsair is where that shows up in the seats. It sits a touch lower than the RX, around 25.5 inches, but the trade-off is a wide door opening and one of the best A-pillar grab points in the segment: thick, textured, exactly where your hand wants to land. Lincoln also offers a perfumer-designed cabin scent option, which sounds like a gimmick until you realize the whole interior program was designed around making the cabin feel like a hotel suite rather than a cockpit. Soft closed doors included, so you're not slamming a heavy door shut with your shoulder. The Corsair's running boards deserve a mention too, because Lincoln offers a discreet, retractable step on certain trims that only deploys when the door opens and tucks away when it's closed, so it never looks like a mobility aid. It just quietly drops the effective step height by another couple of inches when you need it, and disappears when you don't. That's the kind of feature that gets buried 3 pages deep in a trim-level brochure instead of front and center, even though it might matter more to a buyer than the sound system does. Now for the value pick, and the one that might surprise you, the Subaru Forester. The Forester isn't marketed as luxury, but its seat height and boxy greenhouse design make it one of the most senior-friendly SUVs on sale at any price. Seat height sits almost exactly at 26.5 inches, and because Subaru kept the car's overall shape upright and boxy instead of chasing a sloped coupe-like roofline, the door opening is nearly rectangular. No ducking, no twisting under a low roof rail. The floor is nearly flat, so there's no high sill to swing your leg over. Subaru's own internal buyer data has skewed older for the Forester for years, and the design reflects it, even if the marketing doesn't say so out loud. There's another detail worth flagging. The Forester's door opening angle is one of the widest of any compact SUV, close to 80 degrees, because Subaru didn't sculpt the lower body panel to taper inward the way a lot of sportier looking crossovers do. That taper looks good in photos, but it narrows the gap you actually have to step through. The Forester skips that styling trend entirely, and the payoff is a door opening that gives you a full, straight line to step into, rather than an angled squeeze. Next up, a name that's had a rocky reputation but nails the fundamentals here, the Nissan Rogue. Nissan redesigned its current Rogue seating position specifically to sit higher than the outgoing generation, and it shows 27 inches at the seat with a lower door sill than most competitors, meaning less of a step over when you're getting in. Nissan also widened the door opening angle in this generation, close to 80 degrees, and added a grab handle above the door that's shaped more like a bar than a strap, which matters if your grip strength isn't what it used to be. It's not a car anyone talks about for luxury cachet, but functionally, for this specific use case, it's outperforming vehicles that cost twice as much. Nissan also reworked the seat foam density in this generation specifically to reduce the sinking feeling older seats had. A seat that's too soft actually makes standing back up harder because you're pushing against cushion instead of a firm surface. The Nissan seat holds its shape under weight instead of collapsing, which gives you something solid to push off of when it's time to get out. It's a change that never shows up in a spec comparison, but it's the difference between a seat that helps you and one that just looks comfortable in a showroom. Now for the biggest one on this list, and proof that bigger doesn't mean harder to get into, the Buick Enclave. Buick built its entire modern identity around comfort for an older buyer, and the Enclave is the clearest evidence of that strategy. Seat height comes in around 27.5 inches, right at the top of the ideal window, and the door opening is enormous, close to 90 degrees on the front doors, which combined with a tall seating position gives you almost a straight walk-in, walk-out motion instead of a drop and climb. The grab handle is oversized, and Buick added extra bolstering along the seat bottom specifically to help support the transition from standing to sitting. If you need room for grandkids and gear, but still want the entry-exit ease of something smaller, this is the one built exactly for that compromise. Buick also puts real effort into the second row entry, not just the front seats, which matters if you're the one loading in a spouse or a parent with more limited mobility. The Enclave's second row doors open just as wide as the fronts, and the rear seat height is barely lower than the front, so you're not dealing with one easy seat and one hard. A lot of three-row SUVs treat the back seats as an afterthought once the front is sorted. The Enclave treats both the same, which is rare in this segment. And finally, the smallest and most affordable car on this list, which earns its spot purely on geometry, the Mazda CX-5. Mazda doesn't chase the luxury SUV bracket the way the others here do, but the CX-5 seat height sits right around 25 inches, and its door opening, while not the widest, is paired with one of the most naturally placed A-pillar handles in the class. Mazda's engineers specifically designed the pillar shape to double as a grip point, not just a structural piece. It's proof that you don't need a six-figure luxury badge to get the fundamentals right. Sometimes, a company that obsesses over small details in every other part of the car, steering feel, seat bolstering, sight lines, ends up nailing this one too, almost by accident. So here's the pattern across all 7. It's never one big feature. It's the seat height landing in that 25 to 28-inch window, a door that swings wide enough to give you a real angle of approach instead of a narrow gap you have to squeeze through, and the grab point positioned where your hand actually reaches, not where a stylist thought it looked clean. None of these numbers show up on a window sticker. None of them get mentioned in a typical review. But if you or someone you're shopping for is dealing with hip replacements, knee issues, or just the everyday stiffness that comes with getting older, these are the numbers that decide whether a car gets used every day or ends up sitting in the driveway because getting in and out of it is a fight you don't want to have twice a day. If you're cross-shopping any of these 7, don't just take a test drive around the block. Get in and out of the driver's seat 5 or 6 times in the dealership parking lot before you decide. Time yourself. Notice where your hand goes for balance. Notice whether you're pushing up with your arms or rocking forward naturally. That 30 seconds in the parking lot will tell you more about whether this car works for you long-term than any spec sheet ever will.